is this guy?
He is much more impressive than the hedgehog I fought previously.
Dude, I'm standing right here. Now come on, you can't take us all at once.
Who knew Sonic 3 was going to be peak fiction? This movie was so much fun, especially because they adapted Sonic Adventure 2, one of my all-time favorite video games. I grew up playing that video game, so just being able to see it in live action, seeing these moments we got in the game on the big screen was absolutely phenomenal to me. Having these really good character moments between Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails, having them become more of a family, and then also having the really good moments with Shadow, learning about his backstory with Maria, having that emotional impact, and as well, having some Jim Carrey action with Jim Carrey, as he somehow has the best chemistry with himself. So this movie was fantastic for any Sonic movie lover fans, and before I ramble on too long, we're going to be breaking down the movie, talking about all the Easter eggs and references that happened during it, the plot line, and also that ending, because that ending was wild. And it was easily the act that carried the entire movie. Plus, on top of it, we do have a post and mid-credit scene that we need to talk about, so we will go over that as well. So with that, let's jump into the beginning of the movie. Now, we're going to be starting off at Prison Island, which is actually from the video game as well. However, instead of being a large jungle island like it is in Sonic Adventure 2, it's actually just a small little island that looks more kind of like Alcatraz or something along those lines. Now, when Shadow's being broken out, it's Dr. Robotnik that's releasing him, where you get to see that classic Dr. Eggman icon on the computer as he hacks it. Shadow is kept in the cryogenic pod just like how he is in the video game, and when he breaks free, he's able to teleport in short distances, and he's hovering with his air chutes because that's exactly what he can do in the video games. So it's cool to see them keeping along the lines of what we always see in the games and making Shadow feel like Shadow. On top of it, in the prison, we see this little robot that's sitting on the guard's console. And this robot instantly reminded me of E123 from Sonic Heroes, the robot you get to play as the quote-unquote bad guys in the game. So that was a really cool little Easter egg that I noticed right away, because as soon as I recognized it, I'm like, I know this from something, and it clicked that it was Sonic Heroes, and that was the other Sonic game I played a lot as a kid. So it was pretty cool to get that opening sequence of Shadow breaking out. We get to see an awesome scene of him beating up the guards without a problem. He literally just kicks all their asses and escapes. Now, this prison's just off the shores of Japan, so he heads off into Tokyo. Then we jump to Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles doing a fun little race. But this race turns out to be an illusion to get Sonic distracted so they can throw him an Earth Day party, which is the first day he arrived on Earth, which is a nice touching family scene. We also have Sonic running to the end of the goalpost, getting the classic victory sound from the game, and it's just like a really nice moment. And then we go back to the original cave that he lived in the first movie, seeing the drawing of him and Longclaw, which that image of him and Longclaw sitting on the giant loop there is from the Green Hill Zone in the Sonic games. When we do catch up with Shadow after this, we learn that he's been locked up for 50 years, which is exactly what happens in the games. After Project Shadow, he gets locked away for a long time, and we don't see him for a while because he's too dangerous. The cool part is when we have Rockwell coming to pick up the Team Sonic to go against Shadow, because who else is going to verse this Super Hedgehog except for the other Super Hedgehog and his team that they already have on Earth, which ultimately leads to them getting their asses kicked. But we had some pretty cool moments leading up to it. Like when they're in a helicopter, they talk about how they're going to be fighting against Godzilla or Hello Kitty because they're going to Japan. And then Sonic says this as they're about to jump out of the helicopter.
Talk about low-budget flights, no food or movies. I'm out of here. I like running better.
Which is pulled directly from Sonic Adventure 2, the opening of the game, playing the level City Escape. Now, the only thing I wish they had during this movie was the City Escape song, because that's one of my favorite songs from the Sonic game, so it would have been absolutely fantastic to hear it. But it was still cool to get that Sonic Adventure 2 reference as they jumped into the battle. Now, when they're fighting him, we see them get absolutely wrecked with Shadow already overpowering them because he is super strong. He takes down Knuckles, takes down Sonic, and then Sonic chases after him while he's using his motorcycle and gun. Now, his motorcycle and gun is from the Shadow the Hedgehog game, so it's cool they added that. Even though it was for a short part of the movie, they did add it in there just to have that reference to this character and his video game. Pretty badass to watch him slide on the bike, just like the Akira slide from the movie Akira. So that was a pretty badass reference as well. Then when Sonic and Shadow are going head to head in the sky, that just reminded me of the Sonic Adventure 2 title screen. Now, after Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails get their ass beat, they have to regroup and go somewhere a little bit safe. So they go to the Chow Garden Cafe. Now, that's just a little cafe in Tokyo, but in the video game, this is an actual thing, where the Chow Garden is a home for the Chows. And the Chows are a mystical species of fairy-like creatures that inhabit various parts of Earth. In Sonic Adventure 2, you were able to raise these Chows up their stats and make them fight and race, which I'm kind of hoping that the Chow Garden wasn't just a little reference to that, and eventually we will get Chows in these movies, especially because we keep getting different Sonic characters as we go through this universe. During the scene as well, we do get a Detective Pikachu reference, and Knuckles saying Pika Pika. So a nice little fun reference to another video game that was adapted into a movie. And during all this too, we have that Shadow's talking about how he is chaos energy, which in the game is what he always talks about, is using chaos control and his powers as he is the Chaos Emeralds. Now in the games, he can use chaos control, but it's much stronger when he actually does have the Chaos Emeralds. While they're at the Chow Garden, they get attacked by Dr. Eggman's robots. And when this has happened, we have Agent Stone coming in to save the day, which he has this pretty badass moment of deactivating all the drones. But we also have a moment where Commander Walters dies and then gives his key card for the Eclipse Cannon to Sonic, saying he's the only person he trusts. So it's like this interesting moment that didn't really have any impactful event because, you know, you don't really care about the gun agent. It was a plot device to push our characters forward as they go on this new adventure, chasing after Agent Stone and even referencing Tokyo Drift as he's riding through the city. Because they're in Tokyo, it makes sense to reference Tokyo Drift, but Agent Stone leads them to Dr. Eggman, who's still alive after Sonic 2, and he seemingly died. And he's just been chilling in his crab robot this entire time, gaining weight and watching TV. But once they find out that his drones are being used, he has to spring back into action and figure out who is this copycat stealing his tech, which ultimately leads to him just betraying Sonic and the team because it ends up being his grandfather. But I do love how they set that up where it seems like Dr. Eggman's going to be a hero at first, turns into a villain, and then becomes a hero once again by the end, which is a nice change. We can't have 3 movies of the same Dr. Eggman being a villain. When the team gets to the base that Project Shadow and the Eclipse were taking place in, we find out that Knuckles is afraid of ghosts, which in the game Sonic Adventure 2, we actually do fight a ghost as Knuckles. So I felt that was definitely a reference for that. And they even have a reference to Casper the Ghost because he got scared while watching that movie. While Shadow is taking out one team member at a time while they're in this base, we see that Dr. Eggman and Dr. Robotnik are both the same. The grandfather and the grandson are identical, where they both are weird, they're wacky. It's Jim Carrey, so he's pulling off a great performance playing both these characters, and they both like to lick the quills of their respective hedgehogs. It felt so goofy, but I feel like just because it's Jim Carrey, it works so well. But then, of course, it all leads to disaster. We have to have the heroes losing, so they almost die by getting sucked into a black hole. They escape, and then they go back home, where then you also have Dr. Eggman and Dr. Robotnik having a grandfather-grandson perfect day, where while they're going through their VR simulation, they go to Eggman Land, which is actually from the video games, where in the video games, it first appeared in Sonic Labyrinth. So that was a cool little reference to that. Then we had another fun Mission Impossible reference with Tom Cruise when Team Sonic is going over the plan to try to infiltrate the gun base in order to get the second key card so Dr. Eggman can't get it, because they reference it as an impossible mission. So I thought that was another cool reference, especially after I saw the Mission Impossible trailer right before this movie. While they're looking over the base too, they also have the classic icons for Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, which was amazing. And I just love how they throw these little details in this movie to kind of feel like this is what it is. It gives us those references, doesn't shy away from them. And it's so funny how far Sonic has come since that original trailer that it makes me want to know what it would have turned out like if they kept that original look and how every other character would have looked since then. When the team goes to infiltrate that gun base in London, though, we do get a fun moment of Dr. Eggman and Dr. Robotnik doing a laser dance with all the lasers, which I was not expecting. Felt very Jim Carrey. So much fun. And, you know, Jim Carrey just puts on this amazing performance whenever you watch him on screen, so I love that he was doing it. And then on top of it, we have Sonic, when he does go to jump into the gun base before the shields go up, he goes on a little sightseeing tour around London, going to all the iconic places, even going to Abbey Road and doing the Beatles walk across it, which I actually did when I was in high school. So I thought that was a pretty cool reference. And I'm not going to show you that picture because you cannot see high school me. But after the plan kind of goes to shit once again, Knuckles breaks in to save the day using his flaming fists, which we first saw in the Knuckles series that happened earlier this year, and also gliding like he does in the video games. So cool seeing more of Knuckles' powers. He didn't use the flaming fist too much in this movie. I was kind of hoping for a little bit more. But to be fair, it is a Sonic movie that was mainly focused on Sonic and Shadow. We also get this really important moment during this section of the movie as well, when Tom disguises himself using the hologram tech that Tails has created to look like Commander Walters in order to get that second key card off Rockwell. Now, in that moment, Shadow comes through the door, sees that he's Commander Walters, and punches him as hard as he can because Commander Walters is the person he blames for Maria's death. Now, one of the things they really show here is that that's not actually true, because by the time we find out by the end of the movie with the last flashback of Shadow losing Maria, Commander Walters actually tried to stop Maria's death, but Shadow didn't see it that way, and because he was fueled by this hatred and rage of that death, he didn't really see anything else except revenge. But when he noticed that he hurt the wrong person, you could see that glimpse on him. When he realizes he hurt Sonic's father in a way, he felt bad. He doesn't want to be this monster, someone who's evil. He just wants to take revenge on Gunn, who killed Maria. He even doubts the plan during the whole time. When we find out that their plan is to destroy the planet, Shadow's kind of questioning it. Is this really what Maria would want? So you could see through the movie, he was having this conflict of ideology. Dr. Robotnik was definitely pushing him to be this evil monster to destroy the planet, where he didn't really feel that way. But after Tom does get hurt, we do get this really big emotional scene with Sonic. Personally, it didn't really hit me as much, but the moment that came after stirred to more. Where when Tom seemingly was dying, I didn't really feel emotional for that, but I felt the emotional for when Sonic was facing Knuckles, where he wanted the Master Emerald all in order to get his revenge. Where even Knuckles says that the Master Emerald should not be used to get revenge, and that they're not supposed to use that power after Sonic 2. However, Knuckles ends up not being hard-headed and letting Sonic go, even though he knows it's the wrong thing to do, because Knuckles still trusts him even though he doesn't think he's doing the right thing at the moment, which all comes back later when Sonic does make the right decision, but we'll talk about that soon. But it's funny to find out who the protector was for the Master Emerald, and it was Wade. Because Wade became a fierce warrior in the Knuckles series, and now Knuckles and Wade have a strong bond, which I think was a lot of fun. There wasn't a lot of Knuckles references in this from the series, other than the flaming fists and his warrior time with Wade, so I do like how they did still put a couple pieces in there, because I was hoping for a little bit more, but we still got some. Plus, on top of it, Wade's his usual Wade self, and he's playing hockey with the Master Emerald. Honestly, wouldn't see it any other way. Feels like something he would do. However, when Dr. Eggman and Dr. Robotnik got to the Eclipse Cannon and raised it out of the Earth, it was pretty interesting to see this giant space station go into Earth, transform into this destroyer-looking space station. Now, in Sonic Adventure 2, it doesn't look the same. It's more of like a half orb with the Dr. Eggman laser coming out of it. But in the game as well, it's a space colony arc, so they did change up that part from the video game, which I don't mind. I think it really works for the story here. But the interior is somewhat the same, because as soon as Dr. Eggman and Dr. Robotnik got onto the middle platform, I recognize it instantly as from Sonic Adventure 2, because they kept the same shape on the floor. Now, the whole point of this device was Robotnik making a weapon for Gun to be the ultimate weapon, kind of like how Shadow is the ultimate life form in the video game. Plus, while they're up there, Dr. Eggman finally gets his classic suit, which was pretty amazing to see, because it looks so good on Jim Carrey. And the base in the movie also had that classic Dr. Eggman mustache, just to show that it's a Robotnik who created it. Now, before we get into that ending battle and what was going on with the Eclipse Cannon and all of that, we're going to be talking about Maria and Shadow and their backstory, because we jumped back and forth between it throughout the whole film, and I kind of wanted to condense it into one spot so it was easier to talk about. Because in the game, Maria had an incurable disease called neuroimmune deficiency syndrome, which is why she was taken to the space colony arc. Now, in the movie, she wasn't taken to a space colony arc. They were on that base in the mountain that was on Earth already, and she didn't actually have a disease. They still played up her and Shadow's friendship, where in the movie, we see them having a really good time, rollerblading around it, and her becoming friends with Shadow and building that bond and that relationship. One of the things I noticed too is that the way Maria is rollerblading is just like how Shadow runs in the movie and in the games. And we also have her finding Shadow in his pod, all, tying back to what the video game is, implementing those backstories properly in this. In this as well, we have them watching a movie as they're bonding. It's a freak alien movie. The alien they show in this is the Bio Lizard from Sonic Adventure 2, which ends up being the final big bad to fight. It's cool that they threw this in there because it's easy to miss, but it's a deep reference from the game and something they weren't going to include as an actual enemy, so they put it in this really cool movie. One of the things they changed too is that in the game, Maria actually sent Shadow away to save his life from the Ark because it was being destroyed after Gun had come to take it out because Project Shadow was too dangerous, which they might have been doing in this as well while they're on Earth, because Dr. Robotnik comes, grabs Maria and Shadow and says they have to go. So it could be Gun trying to shut down this facility, but I think Dr. Robotnik was doing something a little bit more sketchy with the chaos energy he was using from Shadow to fuel this base and create these weapons, where they didn't want him in control anymore. But then we find out that the reason Maria died here is because a gun soldier was ordered to shoot Robotnik and anyone related to him because they weren't allowed to escape. So clearly Robotnik was doing something that he wasn't supposed to be doing, and he became a target. Now, Commander Walters actually tries to stop them from shooting Maria because she's a child, but the soldiers decide they're going to shoot anyways, and they end up shooting chaos energy that's stored in some barrels that causes a chain reaction that explodes, killing Maria, but somehow Dr. Robotnik survives. I mean, it makes sense that Shadow survived because of, well, he's Shadow and pretty overpowered, but in the end, Maria died and fueled that hatred that Shadow has for gun and the world. Now in the game, the way Maria died is she still died from a gun soldier shooting her while she was trying to assist Shadow from escaping. So instead of Shadow being there and blowing up with her, she helped him escape and was killed in the end. So definitely a tragic backstory for Maria, and I love how they kept most of the same things from the game, and I think it translated really well into the movie. Dr. Robotnik wants that revenge on the planet because they took Maria away from him, which is just like how the video game does, but in a different way, where Robotnik is already dead at this point in the video games because it's been 50 years, he's not around anymore, but he is put in a fail-safe device on the space colony, on the Eclipse Cannon, in order to destroy the planet because they took Maria away from him. However, in this, because he's alive, he's still determined to destroy the planet, but with the Eclipse Cannon instead. Now, one of the things they changed to from the game was that the Eclipse Cannon is being fueled by Shadow's chaos energy, and in the game, they use the Chaos Emeralds to do it. It's definitely similar what they were doing. However, in this ending, it's where we start to get hype moment after hype moment after hype moment, and a lot of references to Sonic Adventure 2, because they ripped so much of this out of the game, and again, as a Sonic Adventure 2 fan, I absolutely loved it. We see Super Sonic going after Shadow with a great moment of him just flying through the space station and grabbing Shadow to get into this cool moment, and just beating him up as much as he can until Shadow is able to outmaneuver him and knock out the Chaos Emeralds from Super Sonic. And while he goes to grab it, both of them become Super Sonic and Super Shadow in this amazing moment of getting another hype train for the movie. Because I remember watching Sonic 2 and seeing him get the Master Emerald and becoming Super Sonic. Like, that was an amazing scene. And now we got it with both Sonic and Shadow. Having this really cool fight scene going all over the planet, eventually landing on the moon, with Sonic being fueled by his rage and his hatred for Shadow for hurting Tom. And you could really see what they were doing to his character until he remembered what Tom said.
I know it hasn't always been easy, but you didn't change who you are in here.
Which in turn made him realize that he can't do it. He can't hurt Shadow. He's got to break this cycle and help Shadow heal. He realized that his revenge is fueled by this hate and that he needs a different approach. When he sits down and finally talks to Shadow, Shadow asks him how he gets over the pain. And Sonic giving a heart to heart, being like, you never get over that pain. You always have that pain in you, but you choose to, instead of focusing on that, you focus on the love for the person that you lost. Which made him realize that he has to remember Maria for the good things rather than focusing on losing her, because that's going to drive him crazy. Shadow realized who he is and reminded himself of what Maria would have really wanted. Even having the moment where he says, a light shines even though the star is long gone, which is a moment he had with Maria. And when I watched that moment in the flashback, I'm like, you know what? This is a foreshadow for later. They're definitely going to bring this up. And I was right. They brought it up. Which then led us into a fantastic moment of Sonic and Shadow both going super, with the Sonic Adventure 2 theme music playing as they go and attack their final boss, which was amazing. Now, the thing is, when they go to fight the final boss in the game, they fight the Bio Lizard, where in this, there is no Bio Lizard, so they're just versing the space station with the Chaos Energy, but I do love how they still included both Super Sonic and Super Shadow going against the enemy. And we even get them crossing paths while they're in super mode like we do in the video game, which was an amazing callback. Plus, on top of it, when they both go super, Sonic says his catchphrase, "We gotta go fast." So that was just an amazing moment, and I was giddy for it. They even have robots that you fight throughout Sonic Adventure 2 come out in a horde to fight them, and it was like this really cool moment of them taking on these robots as they flew through space, and it reminded me so much of the video games. I was just on the edge of my seat, excited. And then when they both fly into the laser to stop it and try to prevent it from hitting the earth, kind of like how they do in the video game. And I do love how they kept these pieces of the video game in it, just having these two characters be superheroes in a way and stopping the bad guys. And before all that, we also got Eggman turning into be a hero because he doesn't want the planet to be destroyed. He lives there. He doesn't want it to be gone, because when the Eclipse Cannon blows up and destroys the planet, so do they. They die as well. So just everyone dies and there's no winner here. So Eggman finally gets a backbone, fights back against his family in this really fun little jokey fight. He's using nanotech to grow animal parts on himself, which is definitely a callback to the video games where Dr. Robotnik has animal robots that he makes. Dr. Eggman kills Robotnik, and well, that was just a non-emotional scene of, okay, he's gone, goodbye, let's keep going on, which I thought it fit weirdly for Jim Carrey's Eggman, and I think it worked really well just because it was kind of a quick comedic scene. But now let's deal with the life-threatening disaster where we have Tails and Eggman working together to try to maneuver the space station away from the planet so it doesn't destroy it with the laser. Now, one of the fun moments is here is they blow up the moon, which in the video game, Eggman does it on purpose to show that he's going to take over the world, making people scared of him. So definitely a different contrast. But with him working with Tails, that's also from the video game, where in the final moments of Adventure 2, the bad guys and the heroes start to team up to save the day so they don't destroy the planet. Now, while Sonic and Shadow are deflecting that laser, Sonic eventually runs out of Master Emerald energy. Once the laser is off, he falls back to Earth while Shadow keeps pushing the Eclipse cannon away from him so it doesn't blow up and destroy the Earth because the chaos energy is out of control. Now, one of the things he does here is he takes off his bracelets, which are limiters, limiting his power, so that when he takes it off, he increases his power tenfold in order to push that space station away, while Dr. Eggman holds back the reactor from going nuclear by putting up shields, being this hero, giving this one good moment with Agent Stone, saying he was his friend, and all these really good moments where he sacrifices himself to save the planet. Now, is Eggman really dead? They might have actually killed him off this time. I think Jim Carrey, he was retired. He decided to come back for one more movie. I don't know if he'll come back for a Sonic 4. And now after the mid-credit scene, I don't know if he should come back for Sonic 4. But it was cool to see Eggman and Shadow get this hero moment. The two villains of the movie come back to save the day because they can't destroy their planet. And then we get like a nice fun moment with Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails having a family picnic. Tom's okay. And then they get to have their race, which was this cool little moment. Tails has his little jetpack, which I thought was awesome. And the movie ends on this really happy note. Until we get to the mid-credit scene, where we get Sonic finishing the race. Now he's in New York because he missed the mark by a pretty big distance. And then we get Metal Sonic. Metal freaking Sonic making his appearance. And he is more than just one. There's multiple Metal Sonics going after Sonic because their prime directory is Destroy Sonic, their most dangerous rival, which in the video games, he was originally created by Dr. Eggman and was the second antagonist to Sonic, which means he could have been activated by Dr. Eggman's death. I don't know who else could have created him at this moment, but it does make sense if Dr. Eggman died and had kind of contingencies for his actual death, that might have activated Metal Sonic. So it's pretty freaking awesome that we are getting Metal Sonic coming next, because I was kind of questioning who might be the next bad. Is it going to be Metal Sonic, or was it going to be Chaos, a character that appeared in the first Sonic adventure? Now, seeing Metal Sonic was awesome because we also got Amy Rose. She came in, the Sonic's biggest supporter, his biggest groupie, has now arrived finally in the Sonic movies, and I cannot wait to see how she interacts with Sonic. She loves him, she has her hammer, and I can't wait to see how they implement her in this series because I've been waiting for her for a while. And a cool bit of information is that Amy Rose and Metal Sonic appeared in the same game in Sonic CD, where Metal Sonic is actually from the future, who was sent by Eggman to take down Sonic, because his prime directory is to take down Sonic. However, when it comes to the next movie, I don't really think they'll be doing a future storyline. I feel like Metal Sonic will be more of a contingency that Eggman made, but I am hoping to see what happens next. Some people have talked about Jim Carrey coming back again for Sonic 4. Even though I feel like that could possibly happen, I kind of hope they lay his character for rest for one movie just so we can focus on some other people. Then we got the post-credit scene, which is pretty much just Shadow surviving the Eclipse cannon explosion, because he goes to pick up his limiter, which is on the ground on Earth, and that's it. That is the whole thing, which now means it's time for his redemption arc. He's going to go around and become a true hero after losing Maria. Instead of focusing on that pain, he's going to remember the love instead and become a good person in this universe. So it's pretty cool to get both mid-credit and post-credit. We are getting Sonic 4. I feel like we're probably going to get a Shadow series as well, because it would make sense. We got Knuckles. It makes sense we get Shadow. But we should also get a Tails series, just because Tails is awesome, and I would love to see Tails doing some gadget stuff, creating stuff in his own little series. But that was Sonic Adventure 2. I mean, Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Absolutely fantastic movie for anyone who's a fan of the Sonic movies, and I loved everything they did from it. But yeah, that was the movie. Let me know, when you watched it, were there any other Easter eggs or references you noticed from the Sonic franchise? Because I would love to find out more, because I didn't play every Sonic game, so I'm sure there's a few I missed. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and the like button to stay up to date with all my review and breakdown videos for Marvel, DC, anime, and Sonic. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you next time when there's another breakdown to do.